The first time I encountered brass, I was just a young little boy. I had gone to the city. I'd been playing in an orchestra that was sort of a Baroque orchestra, so we had none of this brass riff-raff. And then suddenly I sat myself down in the city in the rehearsal session, and I was doing some warm-ups, and it sort of sounded a little bit like this. And then, darlings, then I hear this awful crash, sort of mind-numbing explosion of misery and horror. Something a little bit like this, darlings. It was awful. So I turned to the person next to me and I said, "Horace, what on earth is making that noise?" And he says, "Well, darling, that's a trumpet." "No, that's a trumpet." I could feel the wailing and gnashing in his voice. And so I said, "Darling, do we have to play with those in our band?" And he said, "Yes, because this is a modern group." But I thought, "No, darling, I'm not having that." Oh, it was just awful, just awful. When I got back home again, no one could just believe what I had seen and witnessed. This trumpet, more like a strumpet. And so now I look around and I see these things in their own brass bands. Well, I guess it's good that they're all together, sort of confining the problem to a small group. But I see now they're in orchestras. Oh! What are they doing amongst their betters? Have this lovely musical sound, this lovely group of musicians working together in exquisite harmony. Oh! And then bum bum ba da bum pum pum ba da pum pum. Just this rude and vileness coming through. It's just awful. Just awful. So what is wrong with brass instruments? Well, it's not the material, darling. There's nothing wrong with brass as a construction element. We use it here in these sort of examples of the utmost refinement. I've actually got a brass instrument here. This is called a French horn, darling. And just look at it, it's boring. It's got 3 little knobs. The mind of the brass player, inadequate for anything else in life, is only able to deal with 3 knobs, buttons. I can deal with many more knobs all at once. And the second thing that's wrong with them, darlings, is that they have spit flying everywhere. The uncultured swine that play brass, they spit all their diseases and grossness into this instrument, so they've got these things here that let the spit and saliva and muck just spread all out. That's from 5 minutes with a brass player. And then you've got the brass players themselves, darling. I had one of them talk to me the other day. He asked me if I had any change for him. Well, I naturally suggested clarinet. There's some change that you could use. Change deodorant, perhaps. Haircut, lot of change that he could have. But he was after money, as if he would know what to do with it. Ha! Here we are in the 21st century. We're seeing the collapse of society everywhere. And I fear, darlings, I fear what the future is going to hold when we have these people in our society. With prisoners and people who commit awful crimes, we lock them in jail. Why don't we do the same for those who think that brass are an adequate instrument? Oh! Should be locked away, locked away. But alas, I can't do that all on my own. Will you join me in getting rid of the scourge? Their tight thighs and ladies and friends. Oh, I've got friends. brass players.